What's going on, 7th grade? How are we doing? It's finally the month of May. It is the last month of our school year this year, and you're about to be an 8th grader. It's crazy to think where you started at the beginning of the year with me to the end of the year now, how much growth you all have made individually, not only in math, but on a personal level, which is great to see. Okay. This is our 6th week of our online Google Classroom experience. And this week, we're going to be talking about everything angles, everything angle related. Okay. So we're going to be learning some new angle relationships, a lot of vocabulary, and we're going to be using that to try to solve for missing angle measurements. Okay. So without further ado, let's get to the video.
All right, 7th grade. Today we're going to be talking about everything angles related. It's really our first step into geometry, okay? So first, let's go over the different types of angles that we might have. We could have an acute angle. An acute angle is an angle that is less than 90 degrees, okay? A right angle is an angle that is exactly 90 degrees. An obtuse angle is an angle that is greater than 90 degrees but less than 180. And it's really important that we have that less than 180 because an angle that is exactly 180 degrees is a straight angle. A straight line is technically 180 degrees. A reflex angle is an angle that is greater than 180 degrees. We won't be working with reflex angles very much, but still good to know. And then a full rotation is exactly 360 degrees. Okay. So now that we've talked about the different types of angles, it's important that we know about the different angle relationships. And this is where you're going to want to take some time and really start to write down these relationships. Okay. So our first angle relationship are supplementary angles, okay? Supplementary angles are two angles that add up to be 180 degrees. So in this situation, I see that my first angle is 40 degrees. If I didn't know what my other missing side length was, well, I see, wow, this is just a straight line, and I know that straight lines have 180 degrees in them. So I could just do 180 minus 40 degrees and get 140. And I know that this missing angle would have to be 140 degrees. So that's a supplementary angle. There's also complementary angles. So two angles are complementary when they add up to be 90 degrees. So supplementary is for 180 degrees, complementary is 90 degrees. One way that I've been taught to think about this is that complementary, when it works with 90-degree angles, a 90 degree angle is sort of like a corner complementary, straight supplementary. Okay, so I see that I have a 90-degree angle here, and let's say we were only given 50 degrees and I need to know what this other angle was going to be equal to. Well, I know that these are going to be complementary angles because they build up in the right angle part. So I can just do 90 degrees minus 50 and figure out that this is going to be 40 degrees. Okay. Now there are other angle relationships as well that we need to know, such as vertical angles. Vertical angles are angles opposite to each other when two lines cross. And the really nice part is that they're congruent, as in they're equal to each other. They're the same value. Okay, so that's vertical angles. There are also things called alternate interior angles, and that's a pair of angles on the inner side of each of those two lines, but on opposite sides of the transversal. The transversal is really just a line that cuts other lines. Okay? So it's essentially saying, and it's highlighted them over here, that these angles C and F are alternate interior angles. Okay? And in fact, these angles are equal to each other. C equals F. And this is how we recommend or represent angles, like a little acute angle there. I can also see that I have other alternate interior angles. D and E are also alternate interior angles. Okay, So angle D equals angle E. There's alternate exterior angles, okay, which is essentially the same thing except on the outside. So it's a pair of angles on the outer side of each of those two lines, but on the opposite sides of a transversal. So A and H, so angle A equals angle H. And in fact, if I were to look at it for some more, I know that angle B, let's see, let's make that look more like an H. Angle B equals angle G. Okay. And then last one here, consecutive interior angles. So it's a pair of angles on one side of the transversal, one side of that cutting line, but the inside of the two lines are called consecutive interior angles. The angles add up to be 180 degrees. So in this case, they're telling me that D plus F equals 180 degrees. Okay? Have to be on the same side. Pairs of angles on one side of the transversal, but inside the two lines are called consecutive interior angles, and they add to be 180 degrees. So let's try this out. Let's try to find some missing angles using what we know, using these relationships. So here's our first example. Angle 1 we know is 68 degrees, and we also know that angle 4 is 112. Okay, so there's a couple different ways that we can think about this. I know that a straight line has exactly 180 degrees. So I'm trying to find how much this is and how much angle 3 is. Well, I know that if I were to look back, I have some vertical angles here. And I know that vertical angles are equal to each other. I can look back at my example and say, hey, angle 2 is a vertical angle of angle 4. So that means that they have to be the same. So angle 2 is 112 degrees. And I can also look back and say, hey, angle 1 is a vertical angle for angle 3. So I know that angle 3 has to be 68 degrees. Okay? And now I found all of my missing angles. So now I completely know all of the angles that are there. Let's try another example. I see that these two angles are vertical angles and they're both 55 degrees. I also know that a straight line has 180 degrees. So let me just change my color here. Why don't we go with like a blue? Right here, that's 180 degrees. And I'm trying to find angle A and angle B. But I know that these are supplementary angles. This angle right here and angle B are supplementary. As in, I know that 55 degrees plus B equals 180 degrees. So in order to solve for B, I can just subtract by 55 on both sides. And that tells me that B is going to be equal to 125 degrees. And since I know that angle B is 125 degrees, I can also look at angle A and say, hey, angle A and angle B are vertical angles. So I don't even have to do any work. I automatically know that that's going to be 125 degrees. Let's try this with one more example. I'm looking to try to solve angles A, B, and C. In this situation, I can look for some of my vertical angles again. I can see that my angle B is going to be a vertical angle with 25 degrees. So that tells me that B is going to be equal to 25 degrees. I also know that angles A and B are going to be supplementary, as in 25 degrees plus A equals 180 degrees. So I'm just going to subtract by 25 on both sides. and A is going to be equal to 145 degrees. Whoops, sorry, 155 degrees. And since angle A and angle C are vertical angles, I know that C is also going to be equal to 155 degrees. Okay?